While you might believe in salvation by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, and you might believe it with all your heart, you might believe it savingly, that you bring nothing to your salvation, that your righteousness is filthy rags, that in you there is no good thing. You might believe that to the depth of your soul, and in that embrace Christ and salvation by grace alone. And yet, as you begin to live your Christian life, kind of walk away from that back into legalism? You say, is that really possible? Well, do you remember what the Apostle Paul said to the Galatians? He said, having begun in the Spirit, are you now perfected by the flesh? But so many Christians do that. They begin to think that somehow if they don't do certain things and act in certain ways and demonstrate certain levels of spiritual commitment, that they're in trouble with the Lord. And in fact, they can even begin to wonder if they're actually saved. Let me help you with that. Paul knew he was a believer. He knew salvation was by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, obviously. And yet he looked at himself and said, "O wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from the body of this death?" Now that's about as low as you could go in terms of self-assessment. And yet he said, the Spirit of God gives me assurance that nothing will ever separate me from the love of God in Christ Jesus. You don't want to think you can be saved by the law, and you certainly don't want to believe that you are being kept by the law. Live in the joy of saving grace, sanctifying grace, which will bring you all the way to glory.